As we have dealt with our fellow human beings, we may expect to be dealt with. What cause have we for fear if we have obeyed the voice? We have become as little children, putting our trust in the giver of all good and perfect gifts, and we know that he will reward us according to his goodness and mercy. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. To whom do we look for this peace? Who hath brought the Pleiades into being, or set the bands of Orion, or the waters of the deep that are cast upon the land, or brings breath into the life of all his creatures, and supplies the union with those creative forces that makes for the songs of the spheres? The Lord is his name. Under the shadow of his wing there is peace and no cause for fear. Let nothing stand between us and the Father, but rather let us cast aside the things that have hindered in the past, and allow no care to weigh us down as we go forth in his name day by day. Do we not know, and are we not confident that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose? There may be things we do not understand now, but those things we can safely leave in the hands of the Father, knowing that he will reveal them in his own good time. Let no worry or condemnation enter our minds that might hinder the fellowship we have with the Father. The time is at hand. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. It is not for us to judge, but to work, to serve, and to rely wholly on the promises. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Let our meditation and prayer be expressed in the following words. How excellent is thy name in the earth, O Lord! Would I have fellowship with thee, I must show brotherly love to my fellow man. Though I come in humbleness and have aught against my brother, my prayer, my meditation, does not rise to thee. Help thou my efforts in my approach to thee. Think not of self or of self's own interest, as to satisfying of same, but rather that self may be in every measure faithful to the trust, to the circumstance that has brought about the conditions in the present. And when these have been accomplished, then that is best, as is correct for those about the body, for the body itself is and will be accomplished in same. If ye would know him, let thy life and thy experience be that thy deeds and thy acts are the fruits of the Spirit of truth. Against these there is no law. Love, justice, mercy, peace, brotherly love, kindness, these come from the throne of grace, and thine experience of the soul may be from such. But seekest thou that ye may lord thine self above thine brother, above thine neighbor? The answers come only from those sources, those souls that have forsaken his way. And when ye trust in him, ye are sure and need never be afraid of the material things. For, does he not feed the birds of the air? Does he not give the color to the lily, the incense to the violet? How much more is that as may be in his very presence, if ye apply self to become worthy of acceptance in his home. In seeking such information, one would do well to understand what premise the existent conditions that are as personalities are latent in the individuality of the entity. And why, or what caused those conditions to be existent in the experience of the entity as an entity. Would one, if one would review those lessons as have been compiled and preserved throughout the ages of man and his reasoning relationships with the creative energy, or God, his relationships to God and God's relationships to man, one would see how that individuals were called for definite purposes, through that they, the individuals, had builded in their own experience. And how that such individuals in a life's experience faltered or failed to keep that purpose for which they were brought into being by the acts of their own will, that which makes man in the relationship as does exist. That given man that he might become a companion with the Father, the Son, and the holy angels, and the entities that might dwell in peace and with him. When such individuals faltered, then those things of which the flesh is heir to beset them, in man's terminology, with ills, evil companions, and hatred was bred, and enemies seemed to compass about. When such an individual turned again and sought the face of the Father, sought for forgiveness, pled his own cause as has ever been promised the Father heard, even though afar off. And there came into being in the physical understanding, the mental body, the imaginative body, the physical body, that as was sought for. Then man went so far away in the concepts of his own wisdom that those things became as natural consequences in the lives of individuals. And man bethed himself as a creator by aping even creative forces, which used in a material sense, brought then even to his own destruction. Then the pity, the love still for the Creator, for that created, ever dominant in the heart and soul, that the cry went up for that continued establishment of the access to the Father, even as was promised to his servant David. Then the entrance into the world of the Prince of Peace, that they who found in him that way, that light, that water, that brother that gave them the access to the throne of grace itself, might have those errors forgiven and remembered no more, save as has been given, that those things that so easily beset and the dog returns to the vomit and the hog to his wallow. Then, those things that are existent in the experience of an entity from its advent into the material plane, where there becomes physical, third-dimensional manifestations of this divine love. What an individual does about such knowledge, such relationships, becomes the inclinations, the desires, the wishes of the heart. For thy speech often betrayeth thee. For of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. And all nature hath been tamed, but the tongue hath no man tamed. It may be stilled in the earth, but that it is spoken goes on and builds, or is retarded, by that way, as has been prepared for those who would seek his face. Do keep the mental attitude as to being creative. Not condemning. Not hating. But in that way of a helpful force for others.